As I mentioned earlier, bank earnings out of the US start off the earnings season. JPMorgan, Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, all these banks reported really, really good numbers. Wells Fargo was probably the only bank that didn't beat on the bottom and top line, but they showed significant growth. And where was the growth? In the areas like investment banking, wealth management, trading, both equity trading and fixed income trading, net interest margins. Overall, the economy has been good in the US. The US economy is growing by 2.5%, 3%, and that is playing out in the earnings of the big banks. And for those that held bank stocks in Canada and US for the last few years, you've known that bank stocks, really, with the exception of only a few, Royal Bank here in Canada, JPMorgan in the US, which happens to be the two biggest banks, right? Biggest bank in Canada, biggest bank in the US. But other than those banks, it's been a tough ride for banks with interest rates as high as they are, activity at the bank, lending from the bank, trading at the bank, everything, bank environment wasn't that great. So now we've seen a lowering of interest rates to stimulate the economy on both sides of the border. And now bank earnings are really taking off once again. And our first chart here is one you can see clearly. JPMorgan, as I mentioned, the biggest bank in North America, one of the biggest banks in the world. Phenomenal chart, phenomenal stock, firing on all cylinders. Our next bank here, Bank of America. Again, another fantastic chart. Look at that chart. Imagine you bought Bank of America stock sometime at the beginning of August, sitting somewhere just under $37 today, or around $47, a $10 gain. Huge gains on that stock. Wells Fargo, another strong bank, one of the largest banks in the United States. Chart had a run up to about December, pulled back a little bit, but now is surging ahead once again. And Citigroup, our last individual bank chart. Finally, I can't tell you how many times investors said to me, when is Citigroup going to move higher? Well, here it is. Finally, we're seeing Citigroup move higher again as of August, all the way to present day. It's been a fantastic ride. And I guess our last chart here is just the bank index on its own. iShares US Financials ETF. Again, we saw a bit of a pullback in December, early January, but things have really moved higher in the last week or so in anticipation of the new president taking office, deregulating. The banks are saying the environment is great for business, and they're all open for business, of course. So I don't anticipate things to slow down at the banks. I anticipate bank earnings to be good in the US, continue, and I hope that, and I believe that will spill over into our banks here in Canada.